getting in the country, 79% is from crude, foreign exchange. 11% is from oil, from gas, natural gas. Between the two of them is 90%. If we are getting whatever it is we are getting from oil revenue today, you look at the oil revenue is more than enough to take Nigeria to her next level. But at the end of the day, the processes, the leakages, and so many things that have become like an epidemic on our economy will not allow whatever we are gaining or getting from this deposit or these blessings from God to give us what we are looking for.
The coming of Brazil now this time is important. Then first they have to organize a workshop for these herders, those who rear cows. This is why it's good for you to have your cows in a particular place, and these are things you do to feed them well, and they will equally have good meat for consumption.
The end of a matter is better than its beginning, and in the other way around, the beginning of a thing also can predict what the afternoon or the evening of that same thing will look like. With the trend that has not been co-opted and nothing has been discussed about it, for instance, when you see a project like fuel subsidy removal and you don't have a substitution or alternative like stomach infrastructure or welfare package for the same people that you are coming up to lead, and even though I didn't hear her directly, but it was in news that the president's wife made a speech that Nigeria should not be afraid that they are not coming to loot Nigeria because they are already having money. They are billionaires or trillionaires. So people were depending on that speech. Okay, if you come up, at least if you are a rich man and you come to manage a team, you make your influence affect the people so that they will now have hope. So right now, apart from God, sir, the trend that we are seeing in our economic ecosystem does not promise any better show for anybody.
If we had a better structure, I thought I had some kind of stuff in mind to say geopolitical zones, and we had a plan that every geopolitical zone must have a power station, for example. That means we have a minimum of 6 strong power stations.
Yes. It's very important that we embrace these investors.
I think what they want to do now is to be able to make them understand that, look, going forward, it's not going to be business as usual. Whatever that may be happening in the past, we want to now be able to put a system in place that will checkmate, correct the ills of the past, give us a new pedestal from which to stand and operate going forward.
Officially, what we get in the country, 79% is from crude, foreign exchange. 11% is from oil, from gas, natural gas. Between the two of them is 90%.
If we are getting whatever it is we are getting from oil revenue today, you look at the oil revenue is more than enough to take Nigeria to her next level. But at the end of the day, the processes, the leakages, and so many things that have become like an epidemic on our economy will not allow whatever we are gaining or getting from this deposit or these blessings from God to give us what we are looking for. The coming of Brazil now this time is important. Then first they have to organize a workshop for these herders, those who rear cows. This is why it's good for you to have your cows in a particular place, and these are things you do to feed them well, and they will equally have good meat for consumption.
The end of a matter is better than its beginning, and in the other way around, the beginning of a thing also can predict what the afternoon or the evening of that same thing will look like. With the trend that has not been curbed and nothing has been discussed about it. For instance, when you see a project like fuel subsidy removal and you don't have a substitution or alternative like stomach infrastructure or welfare package for the same people that you are coming up to lead, and even though I didn't hear her directly, but it was in news that the president's wife made a speech that Nigeria should not be afraid that they are not coming to loot Nigeria because they are already having money. They are billionaires or trillionaires. So people were depending on that speech. Okay, if you come up, at least if you are a rich man and you come to manage a team, you make your influence affect the people so that they will now have hope. So right now, apart from God, sir, the trend that we are seeing in our economic ecosystem does not promise any better show for anybody.
If we had a better structure, I thought I had some kind of stuff in mind to say geopolitical zones, and we had a plan that every geopolitical zone must have a power station, for example. That means we have a minimum of 6 strong power stations.
Yes. It's very important that we embrace these investors.
I think what they want to do now is to be able to make them understand that, look, going forward, it's not longer going to be business as usual. Yeah. Whatever that may be happening in the past, we want to now be able to put a system in place that will checkmate, correct the ills of the past, give us a new pedestal from which to stand and operate going forward.
Officially, what we get in the country, 79% is from crude, foreign exchange, 11% is from oil, from gas, natural gas. Between the two of them is 90%.
Hello, good to have you on the program again today, and it's the economy today. Okay, Tukwanubogu here, and I believe that as we go on, we'll get to have a lot that we'll share with you on the program this day. Welcome again. I have a guest, and my guest is Professor Ken Ife, and he'll be joining us via Zoom on the program. Not long from now, we'll soon have him on the program. But till then, I want to say that, okay, let me let you know that the topic for today is survival strategies in times like this. And so we want to look at that, and Prof is able to handle this matter, and you will handle it with him. Okay, and so maybe because of the fact that we already have Professor Ken, let's get straight to a discussion with Professor Ken, then the others will come in later. So good to have you on the program, sir.
Oh, hi, good morning, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Prof. At this brief notice, and you are here, I'm very grateful. We thank you so much, Prof. All right. We have this topic we want to look at, and we want to share. It's survival strategies. And we know that Professor Ken Ife, of course, happens to be someone that is deep in talking about developmental economy or development economy, and being a fellow that has been wide in it, both in the country in Nigeria, beyond the country in Nigeria, the ECOWAS community, and the world at large. I said that the best thing to do is to hand this topic over to Prof to help us handle it effectively. And so we'll say again that it's a pleasure to have Prof. Survival strategy. At a time like this in Nigeria, we have seen a lot that has to do with the economy. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it comes down, somewhere else it's somewhere in between, up and down. And so things happen that we are, let me use the word, almost getting confused and not knowing exactly which way to go. Prof, what do we do to survive? And what strategies can we say we need to apply to survive as a nation, as individuals in the nation, that's families, and then as human beings, as individual persons?
Well, when you say survival, then you have to tell us what threat, because you have to survive against a threat.
Yes, sir.
So we have two major threats. We have the global external threat, and then we have domestic threats. So if I start from the external, because that's where we have the biggest challenge, we have things like the global oil shock, which comes with drop in prices of crude oil. We have also drop in the volume that we produce. Volume drops because of militancy. Because there's a time we used to do 2.5 million barrels a day, but I think we're moving up now to 1.8, which is good news, but not without strong battle. Then, of course, the second threat is the price is collapsing. Now we have a global crisis in the Middle East, in the Persian Gulf, and my reaction is, and what it is that from mid-80s, America struck a deal with the Arab nations. When America was complaining about OPEC dominance. And then they now said, okay, we will, as long as America said, okay, as long as you buy and sell crude in dollars, and then plow back your surplus into buying American financial instruments, then we'll provide a guarantee. We will now guarantee your sec. That's why you have the American bases all over the countries in the Middle East, apart from Iran. So now that also means that now that the world is moving away from single polar to bipolar, triple, multipolar, you will even see the likes of Saudi Arabia beginning to sell crude to China in yuan, and others are doing the same. So there is polarization going on, and then of course you have the Israeli conflict that is at the back of all of this. What happened? Trump came back and then decided that they will attack. So together with Israel, they attacked Iran. But let me tell you this, everything has a motive. He wasn't very clear about the motive of his attack. He keeps shifting from regime change to one thing or the other. But one thing is very clear. Many people made money from this whole conflict, and not excluding the man himself. Then secondly, American defense industry gained over $2 trillion in contracts from that some Arab countries, majorly. And then you are going to say, and then America says it cost them 28 point something, but they look at $2 trillion in revenue. So there is something that has economic benefit to them. Now, I think Nigeria should not waste our time thinking about what is going on there. We should focus on promoting the Gulf of Guinea, because within the Gulf of Guinea, from Angola to Cameroon to Nigeria, through Sao Tome and Principe, through Equatorial Guinea, all the way to Ghana. Do you know that from Cameroon to Ghana is Nigerian continental shelf? Nigeria owns all that, including Benin and Togo. So that we have more oil, we have a lot of oil reserves in this corridor, and we have huge gas reserves in this corridor. But what makes this corridor more attractive is that we have massive refining capacities. Now, Dangote is doing 700,000 barrels a day. By the end of next year, he will be doing 1.4 million barrels a day. There is Bua in Akwa Ibom for 200,000 barrels a day. NNPC is returning back 300,000 barrels a day refinery again. And then you have $50 billion that are being invested in Ondo to also do 500,000 barrels a day. So when you look at the aggregate, you now see that Nigeria has turned into a refining hub, which is special. You don't have that kind of thing in the Gulf. And then we have huge reserves, and we are trouble free. So that's what we should focus on ourselves on promoting, rather than lamenting about what is going on up there. Now, other things is that there are other global conflicts that affect us too. If you look at because we have an import-dependent economy, then every conceivable global macroeconomic headwind affects Nigeria, because your economy is import-dependent. And by import dependency, what you are actually doing is you're exporting raw materials and they're exporting your jobs and importing poverty. And when you are doing that, not only that you are importing poverty, you are worsening your debt situation, because you are borrowing money to pay for products that are being refined elsewhere and manufactured elsewhere, whereas your raw material goes away. Mm-hmm. And you don't 15% of the value of, in any value chain, you earn between 10 to 15% of the value of that value chain simply by exporting your raw material. You now have to go and borrow money to afford 100% refined products. So you are going to be perpetually in debt ad infinitum. And also you have currencies will be under pressure because you are importing, and you face, every time you are facing currency depreciation. So if you look at things like COVID-19 affected us because there's a supply chain disruption as a consequence of COVID-19. And we're an import-dependent economy. We are dependent on imported. Everything went up in price, and then some of them were no longer available. Example, pharmaceutical. Then you have Russian-Ukraine war. What has that got to do with us? We are doing oil and gas. Russia is doing oil, but because Russia is supplying 40% of the gas to Europe, when they started shutting down, Europe prices went up, and Europe was our second biggest trading partner. We started importing inflation from Europe. So all of this tells you just how vulnerable we are. But when you come to the domestic threat, we have a lot of domestic threats. But let's begin by talking about security, because people are not going to bring their money here for you to come and do serious business, to manufacture anything, if they are afraid of their lives and if they are afraid of their properties. So that insecurity is so critical. And in addition to having that insecurity, you also have issues that there are high costs, even though Nigeria is doing so well in managing inflation down, in maintaining steady interest exchange rates, which is encouraging foreign portfolio investment, but not the FDI. FDI is a problem candidate because it responds more to structural factors. So even though you have all that kind of situation prevailing, but unemployment is getting deeper and deeper. Poverty is worsening, which means that there's a disconnect between the massive gain in macroeconomic policy framework and then fiscal lets you down. And it is because your economy is import dependent. That is the only reason, the major reason, import dependency. So if you are going to tackle import dependency, then you have to tell yourself, what can I do to add value to those raw materials God has given this country? God blessed you with this raw material so that you can add value to them and provide prosperity for your citizens. Instead, you said, no, I'm waiving my right to provide prosperity. I'm sending it abroad to somewhere, to somebody to do for you. Even the refineries you have in Nigeria, you allowed all of them to die because you just don't want to process anything in the country. So it is, you are the one putting dagger in your heart because you just don't want to look after your people. So what we say is this: For you to deal with the domestic situation, you have to have export-led growth strategy. The strategy is not, let's do more production to meet domestic consumption. That is nonsense. You have to focus your production to meet export standards and to export. Let me give you one example. I'm in the cassava value chain. If all I'm doing in cassava value chain is to produce cassava, which we are doing in thousands of hectares, then produce gari from it and fufu, apple, and kabacha for people to eat, we will never develop our economy. But once you talk about export, you suddenly find out that cassava has 34 major industrial input products.
Wow.
So, which many companies in the world were going to be requiring. And if you go to the second, third level, to the HA6 level, you find that you can actually do 200 products from cassava. And the market is all over the world. So that is where you have to pin your hope so that you can create the jobs that are necessary by backward integration. So that is the strategy that makes sense if you really want to do. Then, of course, there are the other areas about fiscal governance, because our governance is a challenge. Every part of our governance is a challenge. Bribery and corruption is a challenge. Fiscal dominance over other policies is a big challenge. You will notice that agriculture will come with their policy, then trade will come with their trade policy. But then somebody in the Ministry of Finance will simply issue import license and they will import all these agricultural things we are struggling to produce. Farmers can no longer sell their product, their prices crash. We suffered that in December. Cassava that I was selling at 130 to 150 tons per ton dropped to 60 tons. Gari that we were selling 60,000 naira, 50 kg, dropped to less than 20,000. The same thing happened to maize and soya. So people started wondering. Farmers are saying maybe we should pack our bag and go. Yeah. So there are many things. There are many things that the fiscal does without regard. Okay, look, we have huge capacity, refining capacity building up in our country, but they are busy issuing import license for petrol and diesel, undermining that capacity. And then you have an NPC that is supposed to give 13 shipload a day to Dangote, giving them only 3. What was that? And then this guy cannot even get foreign exchange to import the quantity that he will do for Nigeria, let alone the one for export, because the ones that he imports and exports is okay, he can take care of himself. But how about importing crude to refine for Nigerian consumption? Why would you not get enough foreign exchange for that? Rather, you will give the foreign exchange to those importing the refined thing, and will not give to the people who are doing it. I mean, it's such a contradiction. It's absolute contradiction. So we're going to have to do something about this if we genuinely want to move to a $1 trillion economy. So let me just stop there because there are many more things to say.
I would thank you so much, sir. But from all these you've said, there's one particular thing I want to look at. This cassava matter. From what you're saying, it means that if we were to face effectively the production of cassava and now make it go through all that you've said, a whole lot of foreign exchange can come in from that. Is that so?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, let me even give you one example. If we produce 65 million metric tons of cassava, 20% to 25% of that cassava is cassava peel, the peel. Now, there's nothing you can tell me that if I give you a contract to bring me 1 metric ton or 2 tons of peel, you'll be running around like headless chicken to find where they are. But they are. Now, but the thing is this, if you get that 25%, it will be 20 million metric tons of cassava peels. You add maybe 10 million metric tons of soya beans and other stuff. So you're getting about 30 million metric tons of animal feed. Now, animal feed, 1.5 kg, what you call feed conversion ratio, 1.5 kg of animal feed gives you 1 kg of chicken or gives you 1 kg of fish. All right. Which means that 30 million metric tons of feed can actually give you 20 million metric tons of chicken. or 20 million metric tons of fish. How much fish do we consume in Nigeria? 3.3 million metric tons. So we're actually getting 6 times more fish than we consume. So you can export 5 times more fish abroad.
Wow.
In terms of chicken, you are getting 12 times more chicken than we consume. So you can actually export 11 times more chicken. So that tells you where you are. The prices of those chicken and fish can crash because you have surplus of them. People can actually afford to put protein in their food. So, it's not rocket science. It's not rocket science at all. And then you can think of the downstream industry that you can create. Now, look at Dangote now. He's doing 700,000 barrels. Now, let me tell you the kind of downstream industry that you can get that will, if you go to a place called Texas in America,
Yes.
they have 30 refineries. I have almost 5,000 petrochemical industries surrounding those refineries. So where Dangote has 700,000 barrels a day, he can actually have at least 2,000 companies manufacturing using just what he's producing as raw material. I give you an example, carbon black. Carbon black he produces, we can use that to make tires. If I can count so many coatings, all kinds of polymer, there's nothing you can produce from carbon black. He produces ethylene, polyethylene, propylene, polypropylene. These are for plastics. You use them to make all kinds of plastics, blowing method and then injection method, all kinds of plastic. Anything plastic you see in your household or in the factory, they can be made from those. You're also producing linear alkyl benzene. Now, all the surfactants that you use, Omo, Surf, cleaning agent, cleansing agent, all of that come from there. And we are spending billions of dollars importing all these products. He also produces toluene. Toluene is also a principal raw material for all kinds of products, in the automotive industries. So I can count even LPG, pressure gas for consumption. We can't even meet our needs. We're only meeting about 70% of the need. Yeah. So we have so many that can be used to produce to have far more industries in the country and generate wealth rather than re-exporting them. So this is just a tip of the iceberg.
Prof, thank you so much. Each time you come on this program, you always open our eyes to certain things that the country doesn't seem to be seeing. And I keep wondering, when will we be able to handle these things? Because you are offering us opportunities to become that, extra rich that we need to be. But I don't know whether it's the policy of the country that is making it difficult for these things to happen. Please, what do you think will be the solution? I want us to end with this one. What would you think will be the solution that will lead to utilizing these things you've just exposed so as to help us, not just always be thinking of the fuel and oil and all that?
Anyway, one thing is this: when I say export-led growth strategy, that is a strategy. But for that strategy to work or be given a chance, you must ask all the macroeconomic policies framework to address that strategy.
Yes.
So fiscal policy will tell us what it is going to do. Please stop reckless importation of things that we can produce in this country.
Yes.
Please
and
make sure you allocate.
You always
I know. These are some of the things. Now, you ought to ask, then you ask monetary policy, what can you do? What kind of financial incentives are you going to provide? Which domestic intervention are you going to give single digit to the key sectors that we are going to identify that will give us the growth to the $1 trillion economy? And then how can you help us bring down the exchange rate, bring down the inflation, and then bring down the monetary policy rate? Then you move over to trade policy. And you take trade policy, you have to be real. when we talk about export-led growth, it is about you. Now, just show me how you can galvanize the entire thing so that everybody is looking out for build capacity of local people who are producing product to produce product that are of substantial quality. Now, trade policy, you must recognize that this is the way to go. So you must work with trade so that as you are building capacity, that capacity is going to be exportable. So you get them. Then if you come to investment policy, how can you attract investment in these particular focus areas that we have identified?
Yes.
And we are talking about growth sectors, because there are about 6 high growth sectors that our economy is crying out for. For example, you have, look at what's going on in finance, banking, insurance, and fintech. There are a huge, the banks just recapitalized and have raised over 3.6 trillion naira, and then 3.6 billion dollars, then which is over 5.6 trillion naira. Then you also see other financial institutions, microfinance bank, they're all recapitalizing insurance, they're all recapitalizing, bringing in work, and then you see the capital market is the best now in the world. We've got a record #1 in the world in terms of growth. So all of these people will focus on how do we ensure that we are attracting the right kind of businesses to manufacture for export. Then you come to the area, second area is agriculture, where we'll call it bio-industrial hubs, which is bioeconomy or circular bioeconomy, where you are now going to unleash the power of microorganisms to produce the things that we need. If young boys and girls are not prepared to go to farm, then let's deploy all our microorganisms to produce the food for us. And then that's possible. Germany is earning 2.4 trillion euro from bioeconomy. Why don't we? Why can't we? And the bioeconomy produces over 20% growth rate. So it's going to help drag all your growth to some reasonable extent. So that is a big area. So you have bio-industrial hubs, circular bio-industrial and then you have the solid minerals. Again, in the solid mineral area, you want to use integrated hubs for solid mineral so that there's no waste. And then you move for refining, put refining in the middle. If you take gold refining to Zamfara, to Kebbi, to Ilesha, to everywhere that is gold, Niger, so go and put the refining there. Put refining in lithium, or the place you have lithium, so that you stop fighting these people. The refining is there. So when they are collecting their whatever, by whatever method they are collecting them, somebody is taking it from them and refining it there. And rather than coming to tell them, don't export it, don't get that, and then there is so much. No, take the refining capacity there. And then the rest is history. It's like taking, anyway, I think that more, I don't want to spend my time in giving you examples so that I don't run out of time. Yeah. Then you have another area. Yeah, there are other areas, like we've now gone for regional, our regional development plan right now is also looking at state government and local government, what we call regional approach to economic development, use regional development and cluster of states, and then bringing local government on what we call bottom-up investment, world-based bottom-up approach. So all of them are going to make sure the emphasis shifts away from federal government to subnational governments, which are closer to both the resources and the people and the industry. So that is the new way the new program is approaching it. But you have to add impetus to it for it to gel. That's not to talk about human resource, capital development. You've seen what IT is doing. We are #1 in Africa. We are the digital trade champion in Africa. We've seen the fintech hubs. We are #1 in Africa. We had both the investment coming in and the number of hubs coming up. We produce so many unicorns, about 6 unicorns, billionaire unicorn companies. So get our youth trained. They say 3 million people will be trained. Make it 5 million. Let regions put their own targets so that they can increase. If you don't give education to these young people, you won't stop them from being customers to terrorists and all of that. So we have to invest more, because after all, Japan doesn't have resources. What the resource they have is human capacity. They invested in human capacity and they became the 10th biggest power in the world economy, then 4th now. And they were producing electronics, cars, all of that. So is South Korea. So there are countries that just, where is Singapore? Tell me which gold mine they have in Singapore, which oil field. But these people are doing well because they invested in human capacity. And Nigeria, our youth, That's 75% of our population. And that is huge. And those who are abroad are doing well. 17 million Nigerians are overseas and are bringing in almost $20 billion every year as remittance. That can triple if more people get educated. Many people can be in Nigeria here and been doing some outsourcing job for foreign countries, companies in America. So those areas, they can see the network it is appointing them. So there are opportunities.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. I want to say that we are grateful for all that we have heard. And looking at this topic and the way you've just cleared the things that had been our problems, kind of, we are grateful we found you to help us expose these. There are other parts of this same program that we'll want to bring in, but then we'll not forget to say that we'll get you on again at another time. So because there are this thing we are discussing now is a 3-point affair. We've taken one. I will have to get you on another edition to talk about the second, and another edition to talk about the third one. But as we are concluding our stay with you, I want to say, what are your parting words to Nigeria and Nigerians concerning the economic situation we are in at a time like this? You know, you're often quoted in many places as being the one that will always encourage our people to produce what we eat and eat what we produce. That is part of it. And I want to say, what is the thing you can tell us to encourage us? I mean, so many people are getting worried and tired about what is happening in the economy. But seeing your face alone gives courage. So let's hear you conclude with us.
Thank you. Well, I still agree with what you said, that we should produce what we eat and eat what we produce as a starting point. But you have to take it further.
Okay.
To export, produce to quality standards that are for export, because that is where you break out. I tell you why, because export-led growth strategy is what made China remove 400 million people out of poverty. And that's what made India remove 200 million people out of poverty. And that's what made Korea, South Korea, Indonesia, Malaysia, even Japan, together remove 200 million. Yes, they removed 200 million out of poverty. It is the strategy. It's the ultimate strategy, because Nigerians have money and they want to import. They have an insatiable appetite for foreign imported goods. So you must meet them at that point of need by producing products that can compare with what they are importing, so that you can actually have import substitution and backward integration. So that is on top of a stomach infrastructure. But the other thing is that to do any of all these things requires investment. And that's why they keep hammering on foreign direct investment. But what I'm going to say to you, that if Nigerians do not invest, foreigners are not coming here to invest.
Yeah.
You have to invest first to show, and that is what Dangote has shown. If you put your money, foreigners are running after you to come and put in, because you are the one inside here that wears the shoe and you know where it hits more. Obviously, for you to do that, you have to tackle insecurity. And then one final word. In ECOWAS, we have been encouraging 30% minimum value addition on your raw material before export. Now, Nigerian Senate and House of Rep have passed a bill asking the president to sign this bill for mandatory 30% value addition on our raw materials. And then Ghana, even Africa Continental Free Trade requires 40%. Now, Ghana has implemented 50%. And then Ghana is even buying back their gold and putting it in the central bank. And our bank should do the same. Put the refineries, gold refineries, where they are making the thing, buy the refined gold from them and store it in our reserves. It's a stronger backing for our naira than all the dollars that we are not sure what is going on with them. So that's how European, and look at how Ghana has now got on top of the inflation, single digit. They've got on top of their currency very, very strong, 40% stronger. And so why not Nigeria? And why not the president sign this bill to help us to keep moving? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. And this is why we'll round off our stay with you on the program today, Prof. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And we'll hope that you, being a professor of economics, and you have taught at, not only are you just doing this, you've taught even in universities both here and outside the country, and being formally involved with ECOWAS, serving as Chief Economic Advisor and Director of Economic Affairs at the ECOWAS Commission. We are grateful that you have eventually come home to think about these things, and we're working with it. Thank you, sir. We'll have you some other time soon.
Thank you very much.
Right, Prof. Well, dear viewer, that is the much we have with the professor. Not that we are exhausted, but then our time will permit us to do and get to an extent, and that's what has happened. And right away, we want to look at the things we have, talking about some business stories that is not just the business news, but then looking at monetary matters that we want to talk about. We will just take a slight break and we'll return to that. Oh yes, and then we're still on making sure that we've got things done. We're on, and we want to get on straight to have this perfected. So let's look at our stock exchange immediately, and before we get to the next of the things. And looking at the stock exchange, the Nigeria Stock Exchange, the All Share Index, we've seen it at 24, that is the ASI, as normally called All Share Index, is 243,165.61 points. That's what we have there. And then the value for trade, of course, traded in Naira, of course, happens to be 34.8 billion Naira. Again, for the volume, we have 498 million shares that were brought in there, and the market capital for in Naira, of course, is 156.2 trillion Naira. That is the way it is for what we have from that. We'll go ahead to look at the people who are the strong people in it. First, let's begin with the top gainers. Yeah, the top gainers, we have Taj Bank, that's it. And they are there leading with 10.56% and with 99 Naira 50 Kobo change. Then the first holding, that is First Bank, of course, a First Hold Co, has 9.96% gain, and at the cost of 87 Naira 25 Kobo. That's it. And then Nichols has 8% at the rate of 5 Naira 40 Kobo. And we also have UBA. UBA got 7.93% with 44 Naira 25 Kobo change. That's it. I'm talking about the stock top gainers. Though we also have Veritas Cap, and that's okay. The Veritas Cap is 6.85, 6%, 0.85, and 1 naira 56 kobo. And the next one, we have the losers, yes, the decliners or losers, anyone is called, is the same. And then we have the Unicel Interlinked. Unicel Interlinked has 10% to 189 naira change, and followed by Boa Cement. Boa Cement got 9.99%, and CAP got 9.61% loss. Then Royal Exchange, 9.55% loss. But let's go to the next, that is talking about the key top traders. The top traders. In there we have the top traders, and our top traders, we have Japol Gold. Japol Gold has 77.7 million naira shares, 7.77 million shares that was brought in. Access Holdings brought in 41.2 million shares, while First Holdco brought in 38.8 million shares. UBA also came in there among the top the volume leaders. UBA brought in 31.5 million shares for trading on the platform as at Thursday. That's the way it is. And we have some indices, indexes and all that. But we'll look at all those some other time. Straight away, let's get to the more monetary stories and the news I want to talk about. Tinubu unveils $1.25 billion World Bank supported program to alleviate poverty, boosts human capital development. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu launched the over $1.25 billion World Bank supported human capital development program aimed at reducing poverty, improve healthcare delivery, and boost education standards in Nigeria. While unveiling the program in Abuja, Tinubu said the exercise with the pledge of his administration of protecting the vulnerable, empowering communities, and building human capital that will carry Nigeria forward. The way he said it, I'll quote him, he said, "This is because positive results are emerging from our reforms. Robust growth is returning, confidence is rising, but that progress must be felt in every household, not just in national statistics. Real prosperity means no Nigerian is left behind on a journey to a $1 trillion economy by 2030. What are we launching today? What we are launching today, rather, is an additional financing of about $1.25 billion World Bank supported the program that is focused particularly on smallholder farmers and small businesses. Over $300 million World Bank finance initiative that bridges humanitarian relief and long-term development, investing in infrastructure, livelihoods, and services for displaced persons and the communities that host them. This is just part of the things that the president said on that one, and we'll also look at another of the stories. He said Nigeria's food service industry to hit $19.3 billion by 2030. Nigeria's food service industry is projected to expand from $11.09 billion in 2025 to $19.31 billion by 2030. Growing at an annual rate of 11.73% as digital payment infrastructure continues to transform business operations across the sector. The report noted that Nigeria's food industry has undergone a major structural transformation driven by the emergence of food delivery platforms, cloud kitchens, and the technology-enabled quick service restaurants. This is another of the many things we have got from stories that we have on monetary matters as we go on our program today. Looking at that, I will take the final one as much as time will permit us. And it is the one that says that local crude shortage crippling Nigerian refineries. The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria has expressed concern over the inability of local refiners to access sufficient crude oil from within the country, warning that the situation is forcing Nigerian refiners to compete with international buyers for the nation's crude and undermining the benefits and domestic refining. Oh, well, because of time, we're letting it be at this point, and we'll still continue with some other things we have. But then, before we go, I want to let you know that the business news is the next thing that will follow, even as I sign off right now. And I want to tell you that I've not worked alone. I've worked with people that have helped to ensure that the work has gone on well. Sam Omaji was here and helped me to do it. And of course, Angela Emenyonu was also here. And Elizabeth Ahiaba, and so many other fellows that were around. We worked together. And let me not forget also to say that Bright Chukwebue also worked, and we also have Peace Godwin. Then moving to the other side, there is Victor Adeye, there is also Oluwaseun Dejuan, and of course we have Felix Akijabola there, including Victor Adeye, my great editor. Thank you, everyone, for helping to see that the work has gone on well. And let me not forget that we have the head of the audit department talking about Sue, Sulaiman. Let me thank you too for being part of what has happened today. This is Okechukwu Onubogo, and I always would say that even as we join with the business news to end this program, here now I say, may the very best happen to us all the time.
Chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, Taiwo Yedele, says the federal government's tax reforms are accelerating business formalization, with an average of 10,000 informal businesses applying for registration with the Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, every day. Speaking at the Business Day 14th Annual CEO Forum in Lagos, Oyedele said the reforms were deliberately designed to encourage more businesses to join the formal economy. He noted that the government plans to support the newly registered businesses to grow while expanding the tax base through simplified compliance and technology-driven reforms. According to him, the initiative is part of broader efforts to strengthen revenue mobilization, promote economic inclusion, and translate microeconomic stability into sustainable and shared prosperity for Nigeria. The Bank of Agriculture, BO. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu will the National Inland Waterways Authority, NIWA, has unveiled plans to phase out unsafe boats and rehabilitate jetties nationwide to improve safety and reduce recurring boat accidents across Nigeria's waterways. Chairman of NIWA Governing Board, Mukhtar Shehu Shagari, disclosed the initiative during an inspection of the authority's facility in Lagos. He said the newly inaugurated board had prioritized a comprehensive assessment of NIWA's infrastructure to identify areas requiring urgent intervention. According to him, adequate budgetary provisions have been made to rehabilitate aging jetties, expand water transport infrastructure, and increase the number of jetties, particularly in Lagos, to meet growing demand. Shagari also said the authority would intensify efforts to remove old and unseaworthy boats from operation, stressing that many vessels currently in use pose serious safety risks. The initiative is aimed at enhancing passenger safety and improving the efficiency